Hello, my name is Brandon Jones, and this is week one of my Jettisoned Capstone project. Alright, so we'll get a brief overview of the game really quick. Okay, so we'll pop in. We have our intro scene placeholder state. Going into, that was a little loud, going into our game state, the menu's still rather simplistic. We have play, credits, and exit. Credits goes into the credit screen. We have basic asset asset credits and my name and things like that. Um, go into the game, actually go into the play state. Now it brings us into the fortification phase, which is the new thing, the new feature of this week. So we have our two objects. Right now they're just placeholders, so I don't have a whole lot of information about it, but we have our start point in our game and our safe object, which contains the fuel cell. So this is our win condition. So we have the start point, which at the moment isn't in the game until we hit place. So we can change it and instead do this. Um, Instead do the safe object, or we can switch back and forth, whatever. We'll put down the start object. We'll start right here. So we hit place. As you notice, you can't move it anymore because it's actually in the game map. And then you can no longer click on this button to select it because these items are going to be essentially one-time use item. We'll have more items later on that'll have more uses, and you can put more of them down at once, but whatever. So, using the safe object, we can put that down. You cannot overwrite, clicking this, you cannot overwrite it and put it in the world. It checks to make sure that nothing else is going over top of it. So we'll put down the fuel cell right here just for simplicity's sake. So these things are in the world, you can no longer put anything down, and we hit confirm to go forward. So you can see now that the objects that we placed down are in the same place that they were before. So we'll go and you can walk around. There's a start point. Once you walk onto the fuel cell, it turns black, indicating that you've accessed it. Later on in the game, we'll have to disable it and pick it up after that, but for now it's auto put into your inventory. So then we go back to the start and you win. This would be our win game thing, win game screen, as well as what rewards you got and so on and so forth from before. And this would go back to the main menu, presumably. But for now, we have it going to the credits. So we go back to the main menu from there, and we can press exit to leave in the actual app. This is just the Unity version. Um, so that's the game itself. We'll go forward into a bit of the code, uh, just a bit of it. Okay, so generally we'll go with the fortification logic thus far. All of our scenes have a logic essentially attached to it. So we have the fortification logic, we have infiltration logic, we have our main menu, post-game, scenes, credit, intro. We have all these logic states which generally sets up the scene and works with that. So in the fortification logic, we have these control panels, which are basically the moving the tiles around as well as placing them in the world and selecting them. So we have our control panel, which we're using to move around the object and place it in the world, and we have selection, which we're using to actually select which object we're using, as well as to confirm our selection and move forward into the game itself. So from there we have in our initial, we set it up. So we have our panel object that we've instantiated by resources.load. I could have captured the resources load as a template. I might end up doing that to reduce load time so I don't have to load it twice. But for now, we're doing a resources load on the input panel prefab, and then essentially we're adding the component for the fortification control panel as well as the selection panel on the other one, sorry. So, and then we'll initialize it with what I have is a delegate here that is essentially the information that when there's input on a panel, it then calls this delegate, which in this case is the control panel delegate, which has input passed up to the fortification logic, and it then does things basically based on what button is pressed. So we have one for the fortification control panel and one for the selection panel. So the fortification logic acts as a base interface between the panels as well as in between game logic. So we have that. This is a brief look at our, I'll go with this one. This one's a little bit more simplistic. This is a base of a fortification panel, essentially. We have buttons that we've initialized and put into these. We're instantiating our input button class, and we're passing in, we're setting up the positions essentially here, and in our initialize of our buttons, we're passing down what type of button it is, as well as our delegate for this function, which is called here, which essentially calls up to the fortification phase, or whatever top level fortification logic or infiltration logic or whatever it may be. So from there we'll have that. So if someone were to click the selection button in the selection panel, or let's go with the place button, that's better off. Go with the place button, it then calls the control panels, so the other panel's place tile. So that then places the tile into the world. Once we finish and hit confirm in our fortification selection panel, it passes the information of this phase's map into a map info object. The map info object, if we go to our declaration of this, the map info object is very simple. It just serializes and captures this in a string, and it does not get destroyed on load, so it can be passed between states. In our end game, the enemy player will finish up their map, send the data across in a string to this class. Right now it's being sent across by the same client, but it will be sent across by the enemy player. This player will capture that data and then allow the player to move forward into the infiltration phase, which with the enemy player's map essentially. So that is then picked up in the infiltration logic right here. It gets the map info object and then deserializes the map based on that string. The serialization is pretty hectic right now. It serializes each of the things, so we have maps, rooms, tiles, and then tile objects, and it goes through and serializes those things. I'll show you really quickly what the string looks like briefly. I'm not sure if I still have a debug out, otherwise we can just look at it. So we hit play, we'll hit confirm with a blank room. Okay, it's not being shown out, but we can look at this map info object. Go into debug mode here, and you can see it's a series of ones for the dimensions, and then the room, which is a 4x4, and then all of the tiles, which are blank, so they're ID of -1. So that's the general layout of the code and the game thus far, specifically as far as the fortification logic goes. And that is it for the fortification logic. I'll probably be touching it up, adding a little bit of things in the coming weeks, as well as getting together the actual infiltration phase, so expanding the maps out, getting you to be able to pass between rooms and things like that in later weeks to come. So that's that. Until next time.